Guess what, y'all? Travel vlogs are back.
Such as, should I buy a house? Or should I go into debt to change careers? Became clear once they converted in 61 US dollars per year, or 44 American cents per day. My dad, my mom, and I had to live on less than 1% of an average American's daily salary.
Hey, y'all.
Hi.
We are headed to Vegas.
Woo woo.
We're on our way out of Colorado Springs at the moment, but we wanted to come on here and give a short clip before the sun goes down. I just got off work and we're on our way to Breckenridge for some dinner.
Don't know where we're eating there yet, but that will be our first stop.
So in this video, we're going to give you a highlight of our road trip, but we're also going to give you 5 tips for how to do road trips frugally.
I would say tip number 1 is to car camp, if you can.
Yep, we'll show you what that looks like in a little while, but we're going to try and give you some awesome tips on how to do road tripping without spending a ton of money. So,
And you guys will see plenty of cool scenery along the way.
oh yeah, we'll try to keep it
Awesome.
awesome. South Park, Colorado.
There's library to the left.
A lot of stuff's happening here.
So thanks for visiting. Now we're leaving. That's all there was to it.
So we're driving through Alma right now, and I think if we read that correctly, we're in the highest city in the U.S., sitting at 10,000 feet at the moment.
It's 10,000 plus a little bit. I didn't get the rest of it, but it was definitely 10,000.
But,
We're way up.
you know, in any case, if it's high, but it may not be the highest, but definitely living at this high altitude, it's got to be quite the trip.
Whee! Whee! Isn't this fun?
Yeah.
Look at that giant mountain.
So we're about 25 minutes out from Breckenridge, and we are making these crazy 90-degree turns. So, tip for you if you're coming to Breckenridge, especially from the Denver area, just be very, very, very careful with what you're driving and just follow the signs and the speed limits, because they are very tight turns and
Fun to drive on.
they're fun to drive on, but if you take them too fast, you will hit the person coming at you.
I haven't done that.
Not saying you did.
Okay.
But it definitely is a windy road. It is the definition of winding.
But it's gorgeous. Like, you see all the trees and mountains and everything. I like roads. I like curvy roads.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just one of those things where it's like
It's downhill, though, and curvy. So you just gotta be careful.
you go from 45 miles an hour to 10. So just watch your signs. They do make a difference.
Good morning, y'all. We're just taking our early morning walk. We spent the night at a rest stop. It's about 5 in the morning. Just want to show y'all how pretty it is where we stay.
There's a bathroom.
They're actually indoor bathrooms, which was nice. But this is beautiful. I think just above that, or just over across the way, I think that might be the Colorado River. Right there. Found some morning duckies. Family going out for a swim. There they are. Bye, little duckies.
This is probably the most beautiful rest stop I've ever been at.
I know. Like I said, I think this is the Colorado River. I'm not 100% positive, but
There's a lot of little rivers we passed, but they're not on the map, so I'm not sure if they're just little, not retention ponds, but just like retention streams for the snow.
I don't know.
Morning all.
Morning.
We are just finishing up our rest stop trip here. You'll see the mountains in the background in a second, but we just wanted to come on and say good morning and happy to day 2 of our vacation.
We made it about almost 4 hours. Well, no. Our first trek was 2.5 hours,
Yeah.
and then the second trek was like an hour 45.
It's hard to do 4 or 5 hours of driving when you've been
And it's so
working and
late.
stressed out all day.
Well, that too. So, we have to turn around.
That's fine.
Okay. End of the line. Yesterday, I had to take my state board exam for my practical skills test for my CNA license, and I thought I would get my results within a couple of hours after testing.
Not the case.
Not the case. But I was so nervous. It made my stomach hurt so bad I couldn't focus on anything else except the pizza that we had last night.
Yeah, that was great.
That was delicious. Oh, it's so beautiful
It is.
and quiet right now. So it was nice to get some sleep, and I'm feeling much better this morning.
So
I
that,
still don't have my results yet, though.
No, you don't. So that comes to us getting on the road, but we wanted to give you tip number 2, which was to avoid a lot of junk food. One, it saves you money, and 2, you feel a lot better. So when you get on the road and you want to hit the gas station, make sure you try and avoid buying a lot of chips and sugary things.
My
You-
favorite things.
You can have them, you just don't want to.
Don't live on them.
Don't live
on
on
the road trip.
No, because you'll feel really bad and you'll spend a lot of money on just gas stations are expensive, so we try to avoid buying a lot. We snack, but we don't want to spend a ton of money all at one time. We buy them as we need them, so we know that we'll eat them.
And drink plenty of water. I know nobody wants to stop to use the restroom, but if you drink more water or drink enough water on the road trip, it'll keep you awake.
It makes your trip a lot more pleasurable because you won't feel like garbage the entire time, and it saves you some money.
Yay!
So on that note, we're gonna head on out, and we're gonna see y'all in probably.
Gunnison for breakfast.
Oh yeah, that's right. So see you guys then. So as we come into Utah,
Welcome to Utah.
welcome to Utah and Flatland, as we get closer to more and more desert, we wanted to come in for the next tip, and that is to have an allowance for your food spending. We just got done having breakfast at IHOP, and it was a lot more expensive than we expected it to be, being in Colorado still. So this is not necessarily a frugality, but more of a life hack. Have a roundabout budget at the very least for what you'll spend in food, because you gotta eat and it gets expensive.
It can, especially in small towns where, you know, they're bringing their prices up because they know people can eat.
So, wanted to come in and just give you guys that tip.
And an update that we are in Utah now.
It didn't take us long to get from Colorado to Utah. I'm assuming that we'll have a nice long trek through this.
There's nothing out here,
Yeah.
but it is pretty to look at still.
It's the desert Nebraska.
But it's not, I mean, I wouldn't say it's quite like Nebraska because it's
not
not
that-
as flat.
No, it's not that flat. I'm just being
But, excuse me, I like the colors of the plateaus that we're seeing.
dramatic. Yeah, and we'll come into Nevada probably in about, I want to say 2 or 3 hours. I don't think we sit through Utah too long.
I think
But-
we have 2.5 hours, maybe 3.
We might drop into Moab and maybe get some footage there, but I'm not too sure where in Moab we'll be. I know it's beautiful, but
I don't know anything about it.
it's a destination for people to go to Utah. Otherwise, we're gonna keep trucking along, guys. we are about 3 hours outside of Las Vegas.
We're almost there.
We are almost there, and we wanted to come at you with tip number 4 of traveling frugally or just on a budget when going on road trips. So the first thing I want to tell you about is travel apps. The first app I really think is really important to have is GasBuddy if you're road tripping, just because it's hard to find gas in general, but it's also hard to find a decent price. Google will give you prices sometimes, but it's not always accurate. So GasBuddy is a lot more reliable in regards to just getting yourself the best price on gas.
Especially when you're in places like Utah and Arizona.
Yeah, just because they know they have a niche, they can charge you a lot more money for it, and it's gonna cost you. So GasBuddy is definitely one thing to have if you're road tripping. And then the second app I recommend is just for traveling in general is Airbnb. I probably don't need to explain Airbnb, but just for the fact that we've been able to save hundreds of dollars on just like accommodations throughout the time we've traveled together.
And the Airbnb that I found for this trip, I've got a sweet deal. It's only $38 a night, and our host has a card that lets us park on the strip for free and gives us access to some hotel pools for free as well.
So that's one way we've been able to kind of travel and still because Vegas is not a cheap vacation typically, but we've learned to make our travel relatively inexpensive because for example, I think the Luxor was like $170 a night because we're staying over the weekend, and that's a cheap hotel. And for us to stay at Airbnb is like between $30 and $50 a night.
Yeah.
So we're
saving a lot of money.
So we're saving a lot of money, and just we're gonna sleep there. We're not gonna be hanging out at our Airbnb. We want to see Las Vegas. So those are the 2 apps. There's plenty more out there to help you get by. Couchsurfing is another one. I've never used them, but I've heard good things about them. So that's our tip number 4, and we'll see you guys closer to Vegas.
Probably in Vegas.
So stick around for the last tip because I think it'll be the most important. Hold your breath. You must be under the ocean.
No.
No?
We're way too high up.
So we're about 15 minutes away from our Airbnb, and we wanted to give you the last tip of the night. The best way to save money during a road trip is to plan your trip. If that's a weekend away or if it's a cross-country road trip, the biggest and best thing you can do for yourself is to plan it out. Write it out on a piece of paper, figure out what your gas expense is going to be, because too many people go on vacation and don't budget for it or don't know exactly how much it's going to cost them.
And then they end up spending way more than what they can afford. And y'all already know that we're super budgeters. So I'm not a huge planner. Matt's more of a planner than I am. But I did want to jot down, and I did jot down some things that I wanted to do while we're in Vegas. But everything I chose costs under $30. And it's a lot of fun things.
But with that, I always add in some wiggle room because, what it says online and what it actually is at the door is sometimes not
A little different,
or it costs more, or things have changed or updated. So
it doesn't have to be precise. It just needs to be roundabout.
So that's the last tip. Probably the most important tip is to make sure you're planning your trip accordingly to your budget, or at least know if this is a feasible trip, because if you're planning a cross-country road trip, it's going to be expensive and you need to know how much it's going to cost. And same for a weekend getaway. If you don't know what your gas expense, what your food expense, where you're going, the cost of just being there, it's important. So with that being said, we're going to head into our Airbnb and we will see you guys in the next